Hi everyone, it's me Gaming Jew, and we're back to reasons why states are underrated. And today we are exiting Ohio and heading on to the Hooiser State, Indiana. And honestly, I don't know what the heck Hoosier means. And to be honest, neither do the people of Indiana. But I think it's a pretty cool name. But that's besides the point. The point is, we're going to talk about the top 10 reasons why Indiana is underrated. Which, you would have talked to me a few months ago, I would have said, well, Indiana's alright, but it's kind of Not really a lot to do, but I found out there are some hidden gems in this state. So why don't we go search for those hidden gems in my top 10 reasons Indiana is underrated. Well, for one thing, it's in the Chicago metro area. The Chicago metro area has the states of Illinois, obviously, Wisconsin, and Indiana. Now, in the Chicago metro area, you got some pretty nice cities like Dyer, but you also got cities like Gary, which is infamously one of the worst cities in the entire United States. It's terrible there. The only really one notable thing, maybe two, but really what I can think of, there's only one notable thing about Gary, which I'll get on to pretty soon, but it's really close to Chicago. Like, you can drive from East Chicago and you go northwest, you're literally in Chicago. That's literally it. That is literally it. So Indiana is literally bordered by Chicago. And with that, you're close to a major city. So if you want to, commute to Chicago, Indiana is not a bad choice. Now, until I started doing research for this video, I didn't realize it, but Indiana is home to some of the most famous colleges in the country. Sure, you got the University of Indiana. I mean, that's a cool one. That's where my favorite college basketball coach, Bob Knight, is from. And they're the namesake of the state, the Hoosiers. But University of Notre Dame and Purdue University are here too. If you don't know them, which you probably do, they are two of the most famous colleges in America. And Notre Dame in particular is really famous for college football. They are here in Indiana, and I didn't actually know that. I think I knew Notre Dame was, but Purdue I didn't know was in Indiana until just a couple days ago. But that's really interesting to know that this state, if you want to go to college somewhere cool, I think Indiana's a pretty good state for you. Yes, there is a town in Indiana called Santa Claus. And you know what the best part of Santa Claus, Indiana is? It is actually Christmas themed. And you know what else? This is home to probably the biggest theme park called Holiday World in the state of Indiana. Now, out of all the states we've been to so far on this journey, Indiana is probably the weakest one for theme parks so far. But I looked into it, and it seems pretty cool. You know? I would kind of like to visit this little town one day. I bet you during Christmas time, this is charming as hell. You know what? It may seem a little bit weird, but if this is proof that Indiana is a state with a lot of charm to it. And this town just seems pretty freaking cool. Guys, I really tried not to put another food thing on these lists. I really did. But then I gave up because look at this thing. Just look at this thing. That right there is called a pork tenderloin sandwich, or a Hooiser sandwich. And basically what it is it's a fried giant pork tenderloin. If that doesn't look good, I don't know what does. And they're also famous for something called sugar cream pie, which basically looks like a coconut cream pie without the coconut in it. And I love myself some coconut cream pie, so that sounds good. So, Indiana as a whole, while not having the best food scene in the country, has two things that I'd really like to try. Especially this sandwich. If I lived in Indiana, I would be getting myself one of these right now. That's how good it looks. Indianapolis is Indiana's biggest city, and with that comes with the fact that, it's pretty big. It has a population of, I believe, relatively close to 900,000 people, so I think it's in the top 20 most populated cities in the country. And with that, it's a pretty cool city. Especially if you're into racing. That's where, we'll get into that a little bit later as it gets into its own separate entity, but, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is technically here. It's actually technically in the town of Speedway, but, that's there. They got actually a pretty nice river walk on the White River, and they got a really nice zoo. It's probably close up there with the Columbus and Cincinnati Zoo that I talked about in the last underrated states video. So, if you want stuff to do, Indianapolis is not the worst city in the world. It's not my favorite city by any stretch of the imagination, but I wouldn't object to going there. It seems like it's got some pretty cool stuff. I am not going to get into the controversy with this guy, but one of the biggest people in all of music is from Indiana. Gary, to be exact. And that would be Michael Jackson. And, well, his music is really catchy, and sometimes I just like to put it on the top of my head to really catchy music. He's a good singer. And I feel bad for him because honestly he grew up in one of the worst cities in the country. But if you're wondering, what does Indiana got? They got this guy, one of the most popular singers of all time practically. He comes from Gary. I'm sorry, Michael, that you come from there, because that's not a great city. But, anywho, yeah, so, you want to talk about where famous singers are from? One of the most famous of all time is from Indiana. Michael Jackson. Okay, this one might be a little bit controversial, but I actually might say that Indiana has more beauty than Ohio. Look at this. You cannot tell me that's not pretty. That is Cataract Falls. And, especially during the fall foliage, this place is beautiful. You also got the Kissing Bridges, which is beautiful. You also got the whole county of Brown County is amazing. And then it also has a coastline on Lake Michigan, which is really nice. And you got the Indiana Dunes up there, which is really nice. I don't think it's quite on the level of beauty as the states before Ohio, Pennsylvania, and maybe controversially New Jersey, but it's still a really beautiful state. It's surprising. I was surprised to find that there's quite a few spots in Indiana that are really pretty. And I don't think a lot of people know about that, but there you go. The Cataract Falls especially just look gorgeous. Indiana is number 10 in the country for agriculture, which means Indiana is one of the most agricultural states in the country. And here is some proof. It's number 1 in duck production, number 2 in eggs, number 3 in tomatoes, number 4 in pumpkins, and number 5 in corn and watermelons. Now, if that doesn't prove to you enough, Indiana is in the Corn Belt, which is a region which is known for agriculture, and includes states like Illinois, Iowa, and Nebraska too. So, if you guys think that this state is not agricultural, then, well, you're wrong. Because the Midwest in general is known to be very agriculturally rich. I explained it more in the Ohio video, so a lot of my same thoughts would be in that video, but Indiana undeniably is a very, very agriculturally rich state. Okay, listen. I am not a big fan of motorsports, or car races, or any sort of that stuff in general. I like the movie Cars. But, if you are a fan of motorsports, I don't think there's any better state than Indiana. This is home to one of the biggest, if not the biggest motor speedway in the country, if not the entire world. This thing is enormous. I find it less cool with the motorsports and more of how big this thing is. This thing can fit the entire country of the Vatican City. Yes, this speedway is so big that it can fit an entire country. Of course, the Vatican City is the smallest country in the world, but still. This speedway is bigger than a country. That is amazing. And with that feat, it's super cool that Indiana is home to a speedway that's bigger than a freaking country. Okay, I had to put this at number 1. You've heard of Southern hospitality. Certainly, all those southern states have such nice people and stuff like that. Well, with the combination of this being in the Midwest and in general, that region of the country has very nice people, there's also a thing called Hooiser hospitality. And if the people of Ohio weren't nice, which they are, I said that in the last video, the people of Indiana are really nice. I live in an infamously rude state to most. My particular end of the state has pretty nice people in the northwest corner, but the further east you go, the more rude the people are going to get. But Indiana, you really aren't going to have much of a problem with rude people. From what I've seen, the people of Indiana are super nice and super friendly, and it just warms my heart to see that there's good and nice people out there, and friendly people. And this Hooiser hospitality thing, it just warms my heart to know that there's such nice people out there. And Indiana strikes me as being one of the nicest states in the country for kindness. And that is what I'd say is the number 1 most underrated thing about Indiana. Alright, so we are done with 4 states now as we have finished our video on Indiana. I hope you guys like this video on a pretty underrated state. Indiana is nowhere near my favorite state in the country, but we really haven't touched any of my favorite states in the country. Pennsylvania is kind of in the top. It is in the top 20, but besides that, we haven't really touched any of my favorite states yet. We'll get there pretty soon, though. However, next up is a state I pretty much feel the same about, if not, maybe even a little worse, as the next state we're hitting is a state with the third biggest city in the country. Next up on our I-80 adventure is Illinois. I hope you guys like this video, and that's about it. Gaming Do here. See you later. Bye.